Good morning, everybody. It is another great day to be alive. Today, I am very excited because I have my very first guest. This gentleman is a man by the name of Stephen Summers, joining me from Northern Ireland. He is the co-founder of Marketplace Superheroes. It's an online education company that teaches people how to build a business selling their own products on Amazon, completely from scratch and internationally. The great thing about Stephen is he started his YouTube channel a couple of years ago, and every week he is delivering amazing content. He's one of those people that it feels like you can just trust exactly what they're saying because they know what they're talking about. So all the way from Northern Ireland, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, no problem, Anthony. I'm delighted. Do I call you Anthony or Tony? Because sometimes people go as Tony.
So
do you want me to call you?
Call me Anthony, because the funny thing is Anthony's not even actually like my first name. So Anthony's my nickname.
Okay, well, there you go. Look, Anthony, excellent. Yeah, well, look, I look forward to today. I look forward to speaking on the show and, adding as much value as I possibly can. And yeah, man, let's go. Let's get rocking.
Thank you so much. So I would love for you to kind of just tell me a little bit about, your journey to, getting started when it came to selling on Amazon. Like, how did that even begin?
Yeah, well, I started out like a lot of people that are listening to the show, right, where they didn't know what they wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life either. And I was in the situation where I was working as a data processor, which is a really boring job. I was literally just typing information from a form into a computer all day long. And yeah, like a lot of people, I wanted to do something else. And at the time, I thought I was going to be in the music industry. That's what I was trying to do. And, it didn't work out, as you might have guessed, and that's all right. I'm over it now. But, whenever it was in this job typing away, I would dream about, the travel, make money, do all the things I wanted to do. But there was a lot of things holding me back. One thing for sure was a very broke mindset, a scarce mindset, which, at the time, I wasn't really taking full responsibility for my life. And unfortunately, that's something a lot of people haven't necessarily learned in life yet because it's not something we're taught in school. But anyway, I got into this situation where I was stuck in a rut, trying to figure out how to get out of that rut. Didn't have any skills that would really get me a better job. Didn't know how to get a better job. Hadn't really got a whole lot of confidence at the time. So I was drinking a lot. I was eating a lot of crap food and stuff like that and got fat and lazy. And something happened with me. I was very fortunate in that I was actually out with my now wife and at the time girlfriend, and I was in a bookstore and I was looking around, and I remember my parents talking to me about a book called The Secret a few years ago, which, some people like joke about The Secret because it's kind of like law of attraction and everything. And I was really interested in it, but then I kind of, like a lot of people would have thought, this is a lot of nonsense or whatever. But I was in this bookstore anyway, and I was really desperate at that time, trying to figure out how to do something else in my life. And I found this book called How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be by Jack Canfield. And that book really changed my whole life because I was in my early 20s and really feeling lost, all of that, and just read this book and started reading these success principles like, take responsibility, 100% responsibility for your life, be clear why you're here, know your goal, create goals, break down your goals, all these really important success principles that I now live and die by. And, started reading it and just thought, like, I have to make some changes. So what I did was I started Googling, how to make money online, how to do this, how to do that, and started finding a lot of, again, not good programs. And I really bought into a lot of kind of scammy, weird things. But it was all just trying to figure out this world because, it was quite a mystery to me at the time. So I got to a point where I'd done that for a couple of years. I was doing a lot of more healthy things in my life, but I still didn't have this business goal in place. And so I started looking for what's a business I can get into that I didn't have to be an expert in. I didn't have to do a lot of these kind of weird things, like try to sell some random affiliate program to a person I don't know and all of that. And for me, it was just selling products online, physical products online. And so I started thinking to myself, look, if I go down the route of just buying more courses that I wasn't really using, I'm not sure I'm going to get there. And so at the time, for me, what I needed was a mentor. And so luckily for me, my aunt, one of her friends was Robert, who's now my business partner still to this day. And she introduced me to him, and he had a warehouse, 2 warehouses, lots of staff, it was a cold place with rats running about, as I've often talked about, which is true. But it was amazing because now I was able to go and see this warehouse with real products being sold to real people, and that started to change my whole outlook on life because I thought, here's somebody I can learn from. I can actually learn business skills from. And so to cut a long story short, that's what I did. I learned from Robert for about a year, about 9 months, working for free, working in a bar at nighttime, literally in the warehouse all day long every day. I was reading books like The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And I was starting to get this sense of book knowledge. What Robert didn't have was book knowledge, but he had a lot of actual hands-on knowledge. So basically, together we put those things together. We actually re-engineered Robert's company because at the time there was two warehouses, lots of staff, like I mentioned, but the products he was selling were kind of coming to an end in that they were saturated, very overly competitive. And so basically we said, let's just get rid of everything. Let's start from scratch again. Let's take the pain of doing that and let's figure out a way whereby we can sell any product pretty much you can think of on Amazon. We can figure out a product research system to go behind it, and we can actually build a business doing that. And again, just it's a long old story, but just cutting it as short as I can, Anthony. We basically did that for over a year, and within that year, we worked all day long, every day together for 12 to 16 hours a day, many days, and we turned around. We created a company that was doing about at that time early on, about $1.3 million a year revenue, which is about $350,000 in net profit before tax a year. And we did that for a few years. We grew it, we enjoyed it. It was a nice lifestyle. We traveled a lot. I used to go on vacation with my now wife, with Robert and his family, to Florida and all that kind of stuff. But again, I looked at my own life and I said, do I want to just sell stuff on Amazon forever, or do I want to actually help other people? And so that's what set me down the path of Marketplace Superheroes, which is a company we now own. Robert and I, we own a freight company as well. We've taught over 6,000 people how to sell their own products on Amazon globally. And we do lots of things now, run lots of companies. But it all started from complete scratch, no outside funding, and here we are.
It's really incredible when it comes to one of the things that you said is, you started out, he already had a lot of employees. And when you came in there, Robert trusted you so much that he trusted what you brought as value that he was willing to partner with you.
Yeah.
They say that one of the only kind of ships that won't float is a partnership, but you've seemingly been able to make it work for close to 10 years now. What is so special about that relationship between you and Robert?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we both bring different things to the table. Robert is a phenomenal with an analytical kind of guy, brilliant with finances, brilliant with numbers and all of that, structure, things of that nature. I'm more marketing and sales. That's what I do really well. Obviously now with Marketplace Superheroes, I present things and I've become good at that. I've worked hard at that as well for a number of years now. So we really, we gel well together. And in the Amazon business, it was the same, whenever that was all we ran, I was doing very much the marketing, selling, listing things, translating them, all that. Robert was taking care of the finances and the structure. So we've always had that, these complementary skills. I think that's absolutely vital to a successful partnership. And, it's funny, actually, this interview comes at a funny time because we're actually making some structural changes in the company over the next few years where, Robert's still going to be involved, but he's going to step back a little bit, in the full company. But it's so funny because even when we're doing that process, with Robert getting a little bit older, not wanting to, run multiple things like I want to do, there's still so much respect there and so much kind of understanding for what I want, what Robert wants. And we still continue to do things where people, they kind of can't believe the relationship we have. And it's really based on respect and understanding what value we both bring. And also it's just being a real big work ethic and caring about our students and our clients as well. And when you put all that together, you have a really strong partnership. And I fully agree with what you just said. Like, most partnerships don't work out. And it's simply down to the fact that, sometimes people are too similar. Sometimes people are too selfish. Sometimes people just kind of don't quite get it. And we've just been very lucky that we both get it and we both look out for each other. And here we are, it's been a great experience for both of us.
And had there been times where you guys were kind of butting heads over like a power struggle, or has it been pretty much a smooth sailing?
No, we got some. We have like we don't agree with everything for sure, but one of the big rules we have in our business is this rule called the no can't carry, and I think that's a really important rule. And what that basically means is like you come to me with an idea, Anthony, and you say I want to do this, and what happens in most partnerships, the other person might say, Nah, I don't want to do that, and then all of a sudden that doesn't happen. Whereas what we often say is like the no can't carry. So if you come to me with a good idea or an idea may not be good, and you say it to me, well, I can't just say no to that. If I say no, I have to make a better case for a no than you make for a yes. So what that does is it really enables us to figure out the best idea, the best way of doing things as much as we possibly can. And that's been something we've really made big in our relationship. Obviously now though, like we're running multiple companies, we've about 30 on our team now in the different businesses that we operate in. That's become not harder, but it's just become like we make more decisions independently of one another now because you simply have to as you get bigger. But definitely when you're small and growing, that's the time. And the funny thing, everybody says this and it's so true, like when you're small and growing, genuinely that's when everything is most fun. Not that it's not fun now, it's actually it's actually changed from being fun to kind of like transformative now, and I'm really impacting more people, which is what I'm all about, as is Robert. But I'm really, that's my big focus, building a movement, you know. But the point is that when you're small and growing, you can have so much fun, and you're always looking for the next thing, and sometimes you're struggling, it's hard, and but that like when you look back, like that is where it's so enjoyable, and now it's still enjoyable, but just in a different way, you know.
Mhm. One of the things that when you're talking, your mind, it's going everywhere in a good way. You're constantly thinking about the next thing. But when you're starting out and you're small, is that like a detriment? Because I feel like my mind can't focus and I want to do so many things, but
Yeah.
you were able to stay successful. And was that the key, is just focusing at the beginning on one thing and then later on kind of?
Yes. That's a great question, a brilliant question actually, and a brilliant point because it's very true. You know, what happens when you're starting out is like, and I always say this with love for everybody, but it's like when you're starting out, you're like a wimp, right? And like you don't have the mental fortitude of an entrepreneur who's built, you know, like an 8-figure business. You just don't. Like I didn't either. And I was like, I was so weak in my thinking, and I would like, you know, run to Robert and ask him questions, and then he just said to me one day, he's like, you know, listen, you could have looked that up. You could have found that answer before you came to me. Just get real, stop being lazy, and just get that figured out. And then if you don't know, that's fine. Come to me then, but don't be lazy. And so for me, I had to learn a lot of these things. Like I was pretty lazy, and I did follow shiny objects before I met Robert. So the big lesson I learned there was when you commit to something, commit to it and don't jump around. Now, there are times actually when it's okay to add in certain things. So for example, I do teach people, like if you're making an income, but you're not making that much income and you want to build extra income, like selling products on Amazon, for example, you really do need to consider improving a skill in an area where you can make more money first, that you can then pump more money into your business. Because the biggest mistake most people make is they don't want to invest in themselves or in their company. And as a result of that, they never grow. Whereas for me, you know, I learned very early on, like I had to go and do, I did copywriting for online clients. I went and I found stuff lying around in Robert's warehouse and I sold it on eBay on auctions. I worked in a bar in the evening, all to raise more capital because I knew that I needed more money in order to be able to grow the business with Robert, because he obviously brought capital as well. So like that's the thing, you know, it's like that's number one. And then yeah, as you grow, your capacity grows too. So like right now, people ask me how do I do all the things I do, you know, from YouTube videos to running multiple companies to creating more offers to email marketing to everything in between. There's lots of things I actually do that people don't even know I do, like we consult with other businesses and stuff like that. And really it's down to team, yes, but also that pure ability to be able to take more on. And so, yeah, you're right, Anthony. Like when you're starting out, you got to focus on less, but there are times when having two concurrent things running actually benefit one another. Meaning, if you're doing copywriting, email writing for a company, and that's helping you make more money in your spare time, and you're using that capital to then grow your e-commerce business, that's a good thing. Whereas if the email marketing took you off track completely and you just threw the e-commerce business to one side, that wouldn't be good. So knowing what your outcome is and being clear on your outcome is incredibly important.
Earlier, you had mentioned, when you were starting the business and it was smaller, it tended to be a lot more fun. Versus now, I mean, it's more structured, I would imagine, than it was at that time. But at that time, there's just this discussion about failure rates in business. When it is young like that, what was the thing that was able to keep pushing you forward? Was it just partnering with Robert that really helped get you through those hard times, would you say? Or
yeah, no, I would say partnership. Yeah, it was good to have somebody in the bunker with you for sure who's more experienced. That definitely helped, and that's why we obviously, we teach what we teach, so we can help people with that. But yeah, no, for me, it was just no plan B, and the fear of going back to the job I was in. Well, I wouldn't have got back in there, but going back to those people, having failed, was so intense for me that I just said, I cannot fail. And I refuse to fail. And so that's the thing. And by the way, failure rates for companies are kind of like one of those things. They're kind of a little bit of a misnomer as well, because people say the failure rates are like 90-something%, but that also includes things like companies that are dormant, that never traded, so they're considered failed companies. So I actually don't. Number one, I don't think the failure rate is as high as it's claimed to be by the government. But actually, number two, I think the reason people do fail is because when they're starting out, they're not executing a pre-proven process, right? And so you see these people going on Shark Tank with bad ideas. Whereas you could go on Shark Tank, right, with the most, like, it's been done millions of times. You've done a little tweak to it, but you know what you're doing, you'll get investment. Because business, like, I used to think I had to have the next Facebook, Instagram, you name it. That's what I thought. But really, like, you can have a business doing the most mundane thing, like a cleaning service, when you do it better. And you just and not only do you do it better, but you find someone who's already done it and you simply learn from them and you execute on it. Because even if you were making profit of $100 a month with a small online business, but like, that's a much better teacher than coming up with some new idea. You don't have the skills or knowledge to succeed at it. I mean, you're going to fail massively. And I think that's why most people fail when starting out, to be completely honest.
One of the things that I have been watching on your YouTube is, the way you talk about business. Everything you have said, just, it seems so real, and you're an easy person to trust. I watched a video where you talked about where you need about $1,000 to $3,000 to get started. Yeah. And so that alone really just stood out to me, because everyone's out there trying to make it seem like, you can make riches overnight.
Yes, of course.
You don't take that.
It's such a true point. And I could have made, as Robert too, we could have made, probably millions more over the last maybe 5 years had we gone down some kind of weird hype route. But here's the problem with that. Number one, it's a lot of crap. Number two, people will figure out very quickly it's a lot of crap. And then you don't stick around. Whereas what my goal and my consistent goal is to be the most trusted voice on the internet. And I understand that to do that, that's going to take time, because let's face it, it's not as exciting as saying, hey, you can make, 100 grand in 30 days from now. But, it's the success is all the sweeter when you actually learn these real skills and you understand it takes a bit of time. Like, I did another video on YouTube recently where we broke down where we promoted another company's program, which I really, really believed in. And it did. And that program, right, I can tell you right now, it's an excellent program run by great people. And I talked to the guys about it. Like, they had a very hypey message. Now, they achieved amazing results with this thing, right? But the problem is that when they promoted it, it was kind of like that was to the front. And so my goal whenever we promoted that program was I absolutely wanted to share it with my audience, because I believe in it, still do 100%. As a matter of fact, it's called Kibo Code. We actually have two people executing Kibo Code for us right now that we're funding. We believe in it so much. But the thing about it is this, it's like when I brought on Aiden and Steve as separate interviews on my YouTube channel, I got into that. And I said, look, this does feel very hypey. Let's break down actually what's involved so that people can understand it. And let's make it really real for people. And so the point was like, we actually generated, it's still going, but like we generated over $900,000 in sales in 8 days,
Mhm.
probably more like 2 weeks now, promoting that program. Obviously we get a commission of that on that. But the point is that like we did it by not being hypey. We broke it down. We showed people what was involved. And then we said, look, if this is something you want to do, go for it. Also, there's a guarantee, there's a refund policy. So if you don't like it, refund it, cancel. You're not stuck like. And I think it's that kind of focus. Like the problem is, right, I could have put that out there as like, we made 900 grand in 8 days and that just happened. And then all of a sudden people are like, wow, that's amazing. Like, oh, and you can do it too. But then it's like, I just said on my YouTube channel, like this was 5 years of building trust with our audience, creating content. And not only that, it was probably more like 20 years because actually when you look at it, Robert's experience has brought me to this point and vice versa. And that's taken over 20 years. So it didn't happen overnight. It was a process behind it. It took time. And so, yeah, like sometimes I think people might get a little bit deflated by, oh, it's going to take a little bit of time. But at the same time, in less than 2 years, you can create a company that replaces your income and gives you freedom. And that goes for pretty much any kind of business out there. And if you're really good, like you're a good email marketer or something like that, you actually could quit your job in a few months, knowing what, like getting the right mentor, knowing what you're doing. So yeah, hype is hype, but actually breaking it down in real terms has been huge,
Absolutely. One of the things when I was watching your videos is you said that there's this rule of five where it was a framework and you
Yes.
made everything seem so simple when it comes to making more money on selling products. Would you mind explaining that?
Yeah, sure. So, and the framework is solid. I've seen, and so anyway, the idea is if you can take a small number and you can multiply it, you can create a really significant amount of net profit in a month in a business. So let's just make that very, very practical for everybody. So we're talking about Amazon, for example, an e-commerce business, let's just say, right? Let's say you sell 5 products and you're able to sell those same 5 products in 5 separate Amazon marketplaces at one time. So it's 5 by 5. Then you're actually selling 5 a day of each product in each country, and you're making an average net profit of $5 every time you make a sale. So it's 5 by 5 by 5 by 5. And then we would say, well, that's over a 30-day period. So if you did that every day, 5 sales in each country over 30 days of 5 products, where would you be? So you would be at $18,750 per month in net profit. And of course, people get very excited because they're, wow, oh my God, like that's only 20 grand. That's more than I earn now and all of that, which is true. And yeah, like it's actually really simple. The problem, Anthony, I can tell you now, and it's great that you're with the name of your show, Cost of Success. Like it's like people aren't prepared to pay the cost of success actually. And what that cost is in real terms is putting money down to bring in products. If you're talking about Amazon, putting money down to create any kind of program or product or service, like you have to understand that. And I heard this one time and I created my own example of it. It's like, think of a downhill ski jumper. Well, the only way that they can get to the bottom and jump higher and whatever they do, win by spinning in the air, I have no idea. The only way they can do that, right, is by going down first. You can't go up to go up first. You got to go down first. And it's the same with a business. Like you expect this downward movement of resources, money, in order to create the upswing, the multiplication. But the problem, I see it so much like we create a lot of programs and some people, the people that follow it to the letter, just follow what we're saying, they do great. The people that don't, they try and find like, oh, well, they want to like talk about each element in huge detail and like ask tons of questions whenever really it's incredibly simple. And I've seen this even with Keepo Code, the other program we promoted, like I talked about, we created a Facebook group for that. And I see 222 people in there and it's so simple, but there are people that are trying to find complication. And that to me is so strange, but it's something I see so much with beginning entrepreneurs and people in general. People don't want to accept the fact that things are actually simple. They're not easy, they're simple. And they try to make it complicated because we have a belief that if it's complicated, it's good. If it's simple, it's not good. And I can tell you now, after running all these companies, my goal is constantly, I'm trying to re-simplify things again, get back to the fundamentals, because the fundamentals is where success is found. I mean, if you imagine even a basketball team, like been in the US or Canada, like a basketball team, right? What do they do when they start training every time? Chest passes. American football team, I remember hearing about a coach a number of years ago, one of the big coaches in that game, and he would start the season being like, bring the team down to the pitch and be like, here is the goal, here is the pitch, here are the lines, and they like start from scratch, and that's the thing. People do not want to accept the fundamentals are where success is found, not in the complication, and you'll only see that as you start executing in business.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting to listen to you talk about, finances, in the sense that you talked about doing $888,000 on that Kiblo code, right?
Yeah.
On that video, I watched that one. And so earlier on in this interview, you were talking about how much you were struggling to be able to just stay alive, keep your head above water.
Yeah.
But now that you've had success, you've found success in business, it's almost as if money is different to you. Is that true?
Oh man, 100%. Like I used to think, it's so funny. I used to hear people say, I've made money now and money doesn't really matter to me anymore. It's all about, giving back or whatever, right? And I would always think that person is full of, right? Full of crap. But now that I'm where I am, and I'm still learning, I'm still trying to get better all the time in what I do. Because I don't need money in that, I'm not struggling for money. It really is not a motivator. Like if you were to put 100,000 euro, let's say, because I'm in Ireland, into my bank account tomorrow, it wouldn't really do a lot for me because I can't do anything with that money. And as a matter of fact, the interesting thing is, as you go up the echelons, up the levels of wealth, what you'll see is there's no point taking a massive personal salary or income when you're making a lot of money, because you pay half it in tax. So what is the point if you say, I'll take $500,000 this year? You're going to pay 250 grand of that pretty much in tax, no matter where you live in the world, like pretty much the world over, right? Except for certain countries. So that seems pointless to me, because we've worked hard, we've added value to make that money. That's like, it's a stupid thing to do. So what I look at now is like, okay, well, how can I take less money and how can I use my resources to impact more people, to create more value? So like, we created a freight company from scratch. Took a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands. We were able to do that. And now, after in its first year, we actually had to move out of our premises in the US because we hadn't got room. We just had too much stock. So we have a huge warehouse now. It's 30,000 square feet, which is 5 football fields pretty much for anybody if you try to envision that. But like, it's only because we have money that we've been able to do that. So that's the other thing. It's like, for me now, it's more of a, how can I use my resources to continually grow the impact? And obviously when you grow your impact and you add value for other people, that comes back to you in the form of money,
Yeah. And I'm not putting this out there, of my own thing, but you had come out with a video where you talked about being a millionaire, and, that's not the end all be all of things, but
no.
That is something that a lot of people, that's what they strive for, that, oh, I'm a millionaire.
Sure.
The time where, you realized, wow, like I'm worth $1 million. Like, was that just such a temporary feeling, or like, what is that like?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to make a video about that actually, though. What does being a millionaire actually mean? Because I'll be totally honest, I was terrified making that video because I'm from Ireland. We're not, as a country, like saying you're a millionaire is a weird thing in Ireland, right? We have a weird relationship with money, and I'm fine with it. Like, but funnily enough, like from one of the first times in my life, I started to get concerned about what would people think when I use the term millionaire associated with my name. But the most interesting thing happened, Anthony. The minute I said millionaire, more people start listening now. We had the highest watch time we've ever had on YouTube in that week where I made a video about being a millionaire, right? Which is hilarious, but is also, I think back to my own life, and I wanted to be a millionaire when I had no money, right? But being an actual millionaire, it's so funny because like you can be a cash millionaire, you can be a paper millionaire, you can be a wannabe millionaire. And
Hmm.
for me now, like I don't have $1 million where I can just go and grab it, take it out of a bank and go spend it. I don't have that. I have a considerable amount of money, liquid cash, but holding loads of liquid cash makes no sense. It's a ridiculous thing to do because when you leave money in the bank, number one, banks will only guarantee a certain amount of money sitting in the bank. So it's not even guaranteed after that level. If something happened to the bank, your money would be gone. So that's one thing you got to consider. The next thing is that like having all that cash that's post-tax money, meaning you've paid tax on it, it's now sitting in a bank. People will say things like, you want to save money, and that is decent advice. But the issue is that it's post-tax money. You've already paid tax on it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to be in a situation where you're not investing with post-tax money, you're investing with pre-tax money. So like again, that's a complicated thing, but just to say anything about listening, what it means really is not a lot, to be totally honest. But what it actually means is like you don't have to worry about money. But for me, again, there's probably people out there who are only motivated by money, and if they were in my situation where a lot of our wealth is in our company and is in other things, they probably wouldn't be very happy because I don't know, they wouldn't feel, I don't know, happy that they don't have $1 million in their bank. The reason that I'm a millionaire now is because I have a net worth of well more than 1 million. It's actually multi-millionaire at this point in time. But it doesn't mean that I want to go buy Lamborghinis or anything. I
Right.
don't drive a Lamborghini. I don't have a humongous mansion because all of those things are just they're things that are going to drain you of money. And also they're things that are going to keep you scared all the time because you have to maintain a certain level of income. And if you don't maintain it, you can't afford your home, you can't afford all these stupid expenses. So for me, it's like I like to keep my life really simple, live very modestly, and use as much money as I can to further the cause. And the cause for me now is I want to build as big an impact as I possibly can in the world. I want to grow my YouTube channel. I want to share the message with more people. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm in this for the long game. I'm not in it for the short game.
Yeah, you definitely have that millionaire next door mindset for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just man, like I've bought so many expensive things and you get temporary pleasure and then eventually it's just like anything else. Like I drive a nice car. It's a year and a half old now. It's a Mercedes GLC. It's like a 4x4. It's a nice car. Really nice. But it's not like $200,000. It's not even $100,000. It's much less than that, right? Because if I start throwing money into things like that, it depreciates straight away. That's just that's just a big waste in my mind. It's just because it doesn't give me enough pleasure.
No, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. But what about relationships? So, you talked about you were dating your now wife 10 years ago when you kind of first started that.
Hmm.
And I'd imagine that when you're getting started like that, the relationship changes when you have, no money to now, but also
Yeah.
how much time you were spending putting into your business. So it's definitely a credit to your
Yeah.
wife for sticking through all of that hard time. But I mean, can you kind
Yeah.
of explain that before when you
Oh,
had a small business and now?
yeah, it was really it was hard for a while actually. There was a period in time. I don't think we ever thought we wouldn't make it, but we sort of were like, this is tough, because I left to go and live in Northern Ireland where Robert is still, and I had to move miles away from her. It was like basically over 150 miles, which in the US is nothing by the way, but in Ireland it's a few hours, so it's quite far. And that was tough because we didn't see each other as much, and when I used to live in Dublin, even though I wasn't in a good situation personally, like I didn't like my job and stuff. We had a great relationship and we saw each other often, every day, pretty much. So yeah, that was hard thinking back, and it wasn't easy. But I had a real goal in life, and she could see that I was driven. I'm driven, really enthusiastic, and I'm really lucky because my wife had more money than I had whenever we started going out, and now we're at a situation where she's actually a school teacher, a primary school teacher, but she's not working right now. We have a 1 year old, Harvey, and she's just like, I'm just gonna mind him for the time being, And that's just what she's doing. She can go back to work if she wants to. She doesn't have to. She doesn't have to. So I suppose, having someone who's with you the whole time is great, because if you were with somebody whenever you had money, you just don't know if that's the reason why they're with you or something like that. I have no idea, because I've never been in that situation. So I'm just kind of really fortunate I found someone who's just a great person. Yes, stood by me the whole way, continues to support me. And while I'm out working, because I work during the day. It's not like I sit on the beach all day. I'm making videos and stuff like that, and I want to do it because I want to impact people. She's at home in Harvey, and that's a huge job in and of itself, being a parent. So that's also added another dimension to everything. Trying to do that as well, and and coming home, being present, making sure that I'm there for both of them, and all of that. So that's been a new lesson, certainly.
Well, and I mean, we got a couple minutes left. So again, thank you so much.
Of course.
One of the things I was wondering about is how many hours a day now are you working with all the businesses that you have? Because like I said, we've talked about when you were starting up, it was about 16 hours a day. So now, how many hours are you working a day?
Yeah, it depends is the answer, but typically I only. It's so funny. I spent so many years trying to get out of a 9 to 5, and I kind of have a 9 to 5 now in a way. I kind of work usually from about 9 a.m. Till about 4 p.m., 4:30. Sometimes like today, it's now 3:41 now, and I have this call with yourself, and I'm kind of if I want to finish, I can. I'll probably do another YouTube video today, so I'll be finished at like 4:30. So yeah, I don't work 16 hours a day, but equally I don't work like 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day. And there's some days like this week on Tuesday, I didn't work at all, and we went to the spa for the day. Harvey was getting minded by his aunt, and it was great, So at the same time, by the way, at the end of March, like I'm traveling to the US. I'm going to Costa Mesa over in the West Coast, and I'm going to spend 3 days at a Jack Canfield conference. I'm going to go golfing with my buddy Justin in Long Beach and all of that. So, I still do lots of great things like that. It's not like I just work all the time. But I guess, yeah, I do have a job at the moment, but I love it. And I think that's the thing. We all think that we don't want a job, whereas actually people just don't have the meaning in what they're doing. Whereas when you find meaning in what you do, it's not a job anymore. It's just, I suppose it's a calling. Sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true,
No, I get it. You seem to be a pretty avid reader. I love
Yes.
business books. What are some books that you would recommend for those kind of getting started and in trying to find their purpose and their passion?
Yeah. Well, definitely The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. That is a great book. I love that one. So I'm going to stick around purpose and passion. That one for sure. The Go Giver is a great book, I think, to learn how to become a real giver and why that's so valuable. There's so many, like it's actually hard when you're pinpointing them like that, But I have a list of 150 books somewhere. I'll try and dig out the link for you and send it to you so you can put it out there so people can see the 150 books I like the most. Because a lot of my books are very business orientated, like Millionaire, Fastlane. I love that book, and Unscripted by the same author. That's a great book, Unscripted. So like it just goes on and on. I read so much, and I don't read as much as I used to actually. Funnily enough, I do a lot of like courses and listening in my car and stuff like that now. What I do now is though I actually reread a lot of stuff, and I go back and I see, am I doing that? Did I fully understand that? There's even a book I love again called Ready, Fire, Aim. I don't know how many times I've read that book, and I keep going back to it, and I learn something new because it's dense. There's a lot of material. That's a mistake a lot of people make. They think they need new books all the time. Whereas if you can master the great books, your life can change too,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love business books. I love these. I'll definitely be checking these out. Before we go, I just wanted to give you kind of the floor to just kind of tell people about Marketplace Superheroes and anything else that you're kind of promoting, and just the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, look, marketplacesuperheroes.com. Go check that out. There's loads of free training there. Look, I'll make no bones about it. I really want to grow my YouTube channel. I love doing it. I want to grow it a lot more aggressively. We started back doing it again last August. We're only doing it like 6 months. We've grown it significantly, and I really want to put a lot of my emphasis on that. So definitely go and check us out on YouTube. And also on Instagram, I'm going to start growing that. Stephen J. Summers. Stephen with a PH, J SOMERS. That'd be the best place to come check us out.
Yeah, your YouTube videos, when you look at the beginning ones to what you have now, I mean, everything is just totally different. Your thumbnails are different. I mean,
Yeah,
your studio is beautiful. Really, really impressive with what you were doing with
thank
your
you.
YouTube right now.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much. And a lot of people are like, why don't you have 100,000 subscribers? And I'm like, because it takes time. It
Right?
takes time, so we'll get there. We will get there, but it just takes time. So it's enjoyable. And thank you so much for that, Anthony. And thanks so much for having me today. I wish you all the best with the show. And I really enjoyed my time today. Your questions were excellent, really engaging, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I will end this here, end the recording, but thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Cheers, man.